Hi, everyone, and welcome to Wind Down Wednesdays with Emily. Cheers. So I'm your County Commissioner of Orange County, Emily Bonilla, in District 5. To explain what a county commissioner does, the easiest way to explain it is that you pay all your taxes, your money goes up to the federal level, they send that money down to the state level, then they send it down to the county level, and then we use that money for all the services that affect your everyday lives, like roads, social services, community centers, libraries, all that stuff. And just to give you an update on what happened yesterday, we have our BCC meetings about 2 times a month, and we do all of our votes on different ordinances that we're going to put together, where we're going to spend the money, and on land use cases as well. So we do a lot of growth management. At yesterday's meeting, we were able to discuss the convention center was one issue that came up. And because we were having a lack of taxes with the tourism development tax, we had to look at what we're going to do about the convention center expansion that we had planned. So we're not going to have the money that we would normally have, so we're delaying that construction. We'll come back to that at a later time. Another thing was that I did present a rent increase freeze for Orange County, and that would have affected buildings with 3 or more rental units. That did not even go to a public hearing. I did make a motion for it to go to a public hearing where we can discuss the research and listen to the public and see what they had to say. But that was turned down, and so we didn't even have the opportunity to get to that level yet. Eventually, if it had passed, it would have gone on the ballot for the people to decide whether they wanted to do that or not. Another thing that we discussed at the BCC meeting was transportation impact fees. So whenever there's a new development that comes out, they have to pay impact fees for the impact that they're going to put on the community around them. And that includes school impact fees and transportation impact fees, parks and recreation impact fees. But we were discussing the transportation impact fees. And since 2012, Orange County has actually been giving a discount to developers at 56% on impact fees, and that hasn't gone up since 2012. The reason why it was discounted at that time was because we had the Great Recession, and so they discounted it to help spur economic development through development in Orange County. So now we're looking at that again and seeing what we could do with those rates. I supported raising the rates also to 100% because a lot of the argument was that we didn't have affordable housing, and so that was because of the lack of supply. And if we keep these rates low, then we get more supply and we get more affordable housing. Well, that hasn't happened since 2012. Things have been getting worse instead, and prices has gone up, rents have gone up. So that was not working. So I don't feel that we need to continue discounting that rate at 56% when it isn't, when the purpose for discounting that isn't getting us to where we need to be. So I support 100% charging for that. We're going to also look at charging less if it's in an urban area and more if it's in a rural area. That way we discourage urban sprawl and we encourage more development in the urban core and the urban center where the jobs are, which is very important because that would also take away pressure on our transportation system if people live closer to their jobs. Another thing that we were looking at with the transportation impact fees is discounting or waiving the fee for affordable housing. So if they're going to do certified affordable housing, then we won't charge them the impact fees. And that's to encourage more affordable housing development. Well, we do have 2 guests on today, which I'm really excited to have because we are in a global worldwide pandemic, which has been affecting our affordable housing, our homelessness, renters, everyone's struggling. People have lost jobs, they've lost pay, they haven't been able to get their unemployment checks, and people are struggling. One of the things that I was able to do as a commissioner working with the National Association of Counties is to advocate for the federal government to give local governments funding. And due to that advocacy that I was doing with the National Association of Counties and other commissioners across the nation, we were able to get $243 million to Orange County. And that money at the moment is being used to help individuals with financial assistance of $1,000. So please go to Orange County website and apply for that if you're in need for that. that is there for you. So I am going to now turn it over to our guests who are going to talk about those issues coming up for renters, and what we're looking at to solve those issues that are coming up, because we do have an eviction moratorium that is set to expire on July 1st, and we are hoping that the governor does extend that. He's already extended it once, and we hope that he continues doing that. So I'm going to turn it over to Jeffrey right now. We do have, we had another guest, but we're having technical issues getting her on. Hopefully we'll be able to get her on. But for now, Jeffrey, how about you take it over?
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner, for having me for your Wind Down Wednesday. Um, I'm with Community Legal Services Mid-Florida. We are a legal aid organization that provides free legal services for those who qualify in Orange County. We do have a housing department, and we've been trying to get the word out to help people. We know during this pandemic, people have lost jobs, they're behind in their rent, they're behind in their mortgage, and we want to help prepare people for what's coming. We've been referring to that as a tsunami because we see the unemployment figures. Even as the Commissioner said, people who are entitled to unemployment compensation are having difficulties navigating the system to getting checks. They're falling behind in their rent, and when this moratorium is lifted, they're going to be unfortunately subject to evictions if they haven't paid their rent or their mortgage for several months. So wanted to kind of touch base and kind of let people know what potentially is going to happen down the road. For renters, if you're in a private landlord-tenant relationship, you do not come under the CARES Act. I know a lot of people have heard about the CARES Act. They got their $1,200 check from the government under the CARES Act. The CARES Act only applies to properties that have either a federally backed mortgage or are somehow tied or getting funding from the federal government. So majority of our properties are private landlord tenants. And right now, there is, as the Commissioner said, a moratorium, and that is set to expire on July 1st. What a moratorium is basically a landlord cannot go after you for non-payment of rent um, because this moratorium. And what that means is they can't get into court. You cannot be evicted without a court order. And they pretty much put the lock on the landlords going to the court and getting the necessary orders and writs of possession to get you out of your housing. So that's great because people, if they're struggling, if they've lost their job, they need to be secure in their housing. But that security, unfortunately, is going to end here on July 1st. So if you haven't paid your rent, you owe that rent. So the moratorium does not excuse you or wipe the slate clean of your rent. So come July 1st, if the governor doesn't extend that moratorium, you potentially could be subject to an eviction lawsuit. And what the eviction lawsuit is it's a way for the landlord to legally get you out of your housing. And that requires them to give you what's called a 3-day notice, meaning they can tell you how much you owe, and if you don't pay that in 3 days, then we can file for an eviction. If you get served, if you don't have the money, you don't pay them, you can get served with an eviction. Unfortunately, the way the law is set up in Florida is if you get served an eviction complaint for non-payment of rent, the only way you can get into court to talk to the judge, to present defenses, is you have to put that back rent that is owed into a court registry. So, for instance, if you owe $1,500 in back rent and you get served with an eviction for non-payment, and they say you owe that $1,500, if you don't have that $1,500 to put into the court registry, you aren't going to get a hearing in front of the judge. You might have some defenses that you want to bring forth to the judge. The only option you have is what's called a motion to determine rent. And I know we're getting complicated, and that's where community legal services can come in and potentially help you. If you call our helpline, and I'll get the number a little bit later, you'll speak to the lawyer immediately, and they can walk you through the process of what you can do. Sometimes landlords, you may think you only owe $500, and landlords saying you owe $1,000. So you'd want to challenge that. But the key is you don't get to challenge it unless you can deposit that money into the court registry or you file that motion. So it's very important that be prepared for that when the time comes. And community legal services, our services are free. So we're encouraging people to call us. You can even call us ahead of time. You may not be served with the eviction process yet, but you know that's coming down the pike and you want to be better prepared, so you can always call us. Now, what we don't want to see, and unfortunately we are seeing this, is landlords doing what's called self-evictions. And that means that they're doing things to try and force you out of your housing rather than go through the courts. And certain things can be like turning off your water, cutting off your power. I've heard stories about landlords taking your doors off. Those are all what's called prohibited practices, and it's against the law. So actions like that actually entitle you to damages. So if your landlord shuts your water off thinking, okay, this is going to get them out. They haven't paid me rent, so I'm not going to let them get water. Well, if they do that, then you can actually file a suit against your landlord and potentially get up to 3 months of rent and damages for your landlord for taking those self-help procedures. I was on a national conference call the other day, and in Nevada, some of the landlords of corporations have hired security forces that are actually breaking down doors and trying to get people out, and actually filing evictions when they're not supposed to, and setting court hearings. And while the tenants are at the court hearing, they're going in and removing all their possessions and even fixtures, so the tenants won't come back and live in the places. Unfortunately, it hadn't gotten to that in Central Florida, and we don't want it to get that way in Central Florida. And the only way to stop things like that is for you to exercise your legal rights and challenge landlords that may do something like that. Um, so you need to be prepared. You don't. The worst thing to do is to panic. And if you know what's coming down the road and help you prepare, then that's the best
Yvette,
scenario to have.
the same,
What
the
I've
same
been
thing.
encouraging people to do is, if you know you haven't paid your rent, but let's say you're a worker who's been furloughed and you know you're going back to work and your stream of income is going to come back, try to work something with your landlord. Try and say, I know I owe you 3 months of back rent.
Okay,
I got furloughed,
okay,
unemployment compensation, went to paying, put food in
okay,
on the
by
table,
text.
clothes on the
Okay,
kids'
by text.
back. Say, once I get my job back, I can pay you an
Okay,
extra $200 a month for the back rent until it's
no,
paid
not
off.
really,
So that's a
because
win-win
I'm
for both the
listening
landlord
on the other.
and
I'm
the
listening to
tenant,
you.
because the landlord's
Uh-huh.
getting money that they can pay their bills, and you're
Okay,
getting housing. You're not going to lose your housing. So I would encourage communication. And the other area, and I know I'm kind of filibustering here, and I apologize, is
okay,
people, mortgages, there are two potential options. If
okay.
you
I
haven't
don't
been
know
able to
what
pay your
I'm because
mortgage,
I'm on a mute.
you
I don't
need
know why.
to contact your mortgage holder. And there's two different things that they may offer you. One is
Yo,
called a forbearance, and the other is called a deferment. And there's a
perfecto.
big difference
Okay,
between the two. A deferment would be that the
okay,
mortgage company says you don't have to pay your rent for 3 months. We understand COVID caused you to lose your job or caused you to be furloughed. Don't worry about your mortgage for 3 months. But if you're getting the deferment, what's going to happen is once those 3 months are up, your mortgage holder is going to say, okay, you owe me those 3 months right now, pay me. If you don't pay me, we're going to file a foreclosure lawsuit. And that's horrible. And that's what happened in 2008. And that what contributed to the great housing crisis that we had. That what we would like to see is forbearance. And what forbearance is, you work out a deal with your mortgage holder, say, I lost my job. COVID caused me to lose my job. So I had 3 months that I haven't been able to pay you. Will you forgive me? Yes. And so what a forbearance does, it puts those payments at the back end of your mortgage. So when those 3 months are up, you're not having to put 3 months of mortgage payments at one time. You're getting those extra 3 months at the end of your mortgage. So the mortgage company does not have to put you into foreclosure, and you keep your housing. So that's the ideal thing. And so, but once again, it's that communication. They're not going to, 9 out of 10 times, they're not going to call you and say, "Hey, look, you haven't paid your mortgage. We have these options." But if you're proactive and you contact them and say, "Hey, can I get a forbearance on my mortgage," and explain your situations, most times most mortgage holders are going to try and work something out with you. They got bailed out with your tax dollars last time. So let's hope they learn their lessons and they work with people to keep them in their housing. So those are kind of just the high points. Now, people are going to say, what else is there for me out there? And that's hopefully Nancy's on the line. Orange County's been very aggressive in the housing to try and create more affordable housing, to provide rent assistance and utility assistance and things like that through various different fundings and grants they've
Yes.
gotten. And Nancy, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. So
Okay.
I can kind of turn over to you, and you can kind of explain what Orange County is doing and what they may have to offer people right now or in the future.
Uh, sure. Um, First, I would like to say that I know that unemployment it's causing a lot of anxiety among our citizens, and as unemployment benefits and the moratoriums on evictions begin to expire, not to mention a possible second wave of the virus, we are going to be experiencing higher levels of concern, and especially, particularly among many low income and unemployed households. Orange County has received special stimulus funds, and our Division of Housing in particular has received about $6 million on COVID funds, which the Board of County Commissioners approved our budget just this last meeting on Tuesday. And we have designated lots of funding to help mitigate all these challenges that our community is experiencing. We are designating funds for additional rental assistance, about $600,000 to assist families that have suffered from unemployment due to COVID. We're designating lots of funding to shelters, for mental health counseling, case management, to assist with food pantries, assist with childcare, affordable childcare, and many other needs that our nonprofit organizations are experiencing. And I'm really happy to say that we are also funding community legal services to add 7 additional attorneys to their staff to help those families that are going to be experiencing not only evictions, but other types of legal issues as a result of COVID. Can you hear me still?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So how are these, our citizens are going to be notified when this funding is available? After we execute contracts with the agencies that are going to be implementing these services, we will let our citizens know that these services are available through our Orange County website, and we will give information on the agencies that are going to be getting these funds. However, the best source of information is our 211 number. That's the county's information and referral services, where citizens can be connected with those agencies that are receiving funds, and based on their particular needs, they could be directed to the agencies that can assist them. I would like to mention that we are very aware that the needs far exceed the resources available. There may be another round of COVID funds later in July, but we don't have that information available at this time. But we are very aware of the needs of the community and how this pandemic is impacting housing in particular. One thing that I would like to add is that we are in conversations with the apartment association on things that can be done to alleviate the issue of not having the funds to pay for rent. Um, there are rental payment deferment plans that may be available for residents. Most apartments are waiving the late fees and penalties. You may be able to get partial payments if you ask for it. We are trying to disseminate the word that landlords should forego any rental increases on renewals. Now, unfortunately, we don't have control over that, as Commissioner Bonilla knows, but we are trying to persuade landlords to work with the renters in order to avoid substantial amount of evictions once the eviction moratorium expires.
Yeah, that's key. What Nancy said is 211 is they're the gatekeeper, and that should be your first call, because they can do an intake and direct you to potential resources out there that can help you out, from food to shelter to mental health even. So that's a great resource, and everybody should remember that number. And one other thing I wanted to bring up, Commissioner, and I hate to have to bring this up, but we've seen throughout COVID, especially when we had the shelter at home orders, an increase in domestic violence. And a lot of people endured a lot of domestic violence and were afraid to come forward. They're going to lose their housing. And that is something that we take very serious at Community Legal Services. And we actually have lawyers who handle the injunctions if needed, whether it be emergency, temporary, or permanent injunctions. So people need to come forward and to be safe. And the other disturbing aspect is I for years have done fair housing, and there's sexual harassment in fair housing. And by that meaning that if let's say you're a single mom and you're struggling to pay the rent, and the landlord says, I have a way you can not pay the rent, and ask for sexual favors, that's violating your civil rights, and that is a violation of the federal and state fair housing laws, and that's something that needs to be reported, and you need to come forward. It's very difficult, I know, a lot of times to maybe say something, but if you don't say something, that conduct can continue, and it needs to stop as soon as possible. And that is something you can contact our office, you can contact the Department of Justice, or you can actually go to HUD's website and you can do a report right there. But it is a violation of your civil rights, and it should not happen. And you need to please come forward if that has happened, because people will take advantage of situations, and we don't want that to happen. And I know Orange County's working hard on the housing. I know the mayor has made that a high priority, and let's hope the county can come through this pandemic and be stronger. We got good
Yes.
people that are trying to fix the problems.
Thank you,
Like
Jeffrey,
the
for
commissioner.
mentioning this. Thank you for mentioning those possible, well, those not possible. I'm sure they're happening, and
it is happening.
really
We
sure
have
happening.
seen
It's, yeah.
we have seen
We've
it
had,
up the.
yeah. Yeah, we've
And
had
let me just say, but before
some
I forget,
people.
I'm sorry to
Okay.
interrupt you. Our number for the helpline, and that's kind of like our that's the gateway into our free legal services, and that's a toll-free number, 1-800-405-1417. And that is, when you call that number, a lawyer will answer the phone, so you can get your legal issues addressed immediately. So we encourage, it's free. Call us, please, if you have any questions. It's better to call and say no than the wonder should have called. We got great lawyers that man those phones, that their only mission is to help people and be advocates for you. So please call that number if you need some legal assistance. And the other option is you can go to our website, which is www.clsmf.org, and you can actually go on there and do a live chat with a lawyer. If you don't feel comfortable talking on the phone, we have Spanish-speaking lawyers that man the calls, and if it's Haitian or Russian or French, we have services, interpreter services that can translate for us on the spot there as well. So please do not hesitate to contact us. We would encourage people to.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So I definitely wanted to add that we do have people who contact our office with some of these issues as well. And Yvette, she handles my constituent services. She's very good at making sure we find those resources and send people to those resources. So if anyone does reach out to our office, we'll be sending them your way. So thank you for
Great,
offering your
great,
services to
great. I
us.
mean, we wanna help. We wanna help.
Yesenia here as well.
Yes.
She was up here on the video. Are you still there? There she is. Hi.
Yes, I'm here. How are you, Commissioner Bonilla and Jeff and Nancy and everyone who is tuned in with us? Thank you.
It's great having you here. And we're just going to turn it over to you so you could introduce yourself and take over.
Yeah, so my name is Yesenia Negron. I'm one of the senior planners in the Housing and Community Development Division. I work alongside with Nancy. And I want to take this time to really emphasize on all of the hard work that Orange County is doing in collaboration with Community Legal Services. I know that as of this morning, some of the preliminary numbers of the housing rental assistance application that have been processed directly through the county indicates that we have over 30,000 applicants that submitted applications for rental assistance for mortgage or for rent. And as of today, we have over 7,200 applications formally processed, and about 3,000 of those individuals that have applied are on the process of receiving the checks. I believe that today, Elia Torres from the mayor's office confirmed that the comptroller's office is cutting out those checks. So it is an expensive process, and to ensure that we are expanding the services in our community, we are formally undergoing federal contracts. We're drafting federal contracts right now, 23 federal contracts within the CARES Act monies that we're going to be distributing to all of our nonprofit organizations in Central Florida that have formally applied for those funding. And as Nancy mentioned earlier, this funding is going to go directly for mental health assistance, shelter operations, homeless prevention services, and rapid rehousing, amongst other things. It's really important for our constituents to understand that they have to provide backup documentation in order to receive the federal funding that's available to them, such as identification, because this is federal monies that we are distributing, and we do have to report. So we know that a lot of people are under a lot of stress, and we want to emphasize the importance of having your documents organized, identification numbers, proof that you have loss of income, proof that you have lost your employment and that is due to COVID-19. We have an extensive network here in Central Florida. We're working very diligently with the Continuum of Care, which is composed of different jurisdictions: Osceola County, Orange County, Seminole County, the city of Orlando, Kissimmee, and Sanford. And everyone is just leveraging all of the resources that are available to be able to assist our constituents. We are also going to be going under a federal contract with the Homeless Services Network for nearly $500,000 to assist our constituents with rapid rehousing monies. So there is a lot of work that is happening behind the scenes. I know a lot of people are getting very desperate since the moratorium on the evictions are due to expire in a couple of days. We do want to let them know that in the meantime, Orange County is doing everything that is within their authority to assist our constituents, and that we are constantly providing technical assistance to all of our nonprofit organizations, and also creating other forms of alternatives that will assist us in advancing the services. Thank you. I don't know if you
Thank
have
you
any
so
questions, Commissioner Bonilla, about some of the things that our division is doing. So just let me know.
Yeah, thank you for saying that there's a lot of things going in the background, because I know a lot of people don't see, they see the BCC meetings and the things we talk about there, but they don't see all the work that you all as staff and even my staff in my office and what I do in the background, all the research, trying to find grants, to find money, to find those resources. It's a lot of work that we do in the background trying to get all of this to the people. So yeah, thank you for mentioning that, so we could really get people to understand. And it's not, the process is not easy. We're dealing with things too that we've never dealt with this before. This is something totally new and at a capacity level that we've never had to serve at. So, thank you, staff, for everything that you're doing and trying to get everything together for us. Yvette, do we have any questions from the attendees?
Nothing has came in. I just want to let the people that are on know that they can submit questions through the chat. If you have any questions, please send them in and I'll go ahead and assign them so that they can get answered.
Okay, great.
And Commissioner, what Yesenia said kind of shows the tsunami that's maybe facing us. If 30,000 people have applied for either rental or mortgage assistance, and those are 30,000 potential evictions or foreclosures, and that's scary. Thinking that many
Yeah,
people
definitely.
out there that need the help. So I'm thankful that they're reaching out, and that Orange County, can at least provide somewhat of a lifeline to maybe get them enough on their feet that they can right the ship. Because in the legal world, we're chartering new grounds because the courthouses have been closed. We're doing legal proceedings, just like this. Orange County is going to do a pilot program where they're actually going to try a jury trial by Zoom, and I don't know how that's
Oh,
going to
wow.
work, but yeah, everybody is this new grounds, new territory for us all, and it's hard to learn on the fly, but that's what we're all having to do.
Yeah, and it's really important what you're mentioning, Jeff, because teaching, helping our constituents understand that they also have to advocate for themselves, right? And this is the reason why we're conducting these virtual discussions and we're putting together these webinars, is because as local government and the nonprofit sector, there's only so much that we can do in essence. However, if we equip our residents with a proper education and the tools necessary, they can advocate for themselves and essentially help themselves within the eviction process and acquiring other forms of services. One of the things that I do want to emphasize on is the importance of renters and tenants working in cohesively with the landlords to be able to put together payment plans. This is something really important. I believe that the majority of the landlords, they don't want to go through the eviction process. One, they lose a lot of money. Two, it's very expensive, it's stressful for them. They will much rather be able to work something out with their tenants. And if it takes for them to link them to other services in the community, many landlords will take those extreme measures because they understand that the need is extremely high in our community. And that's something that Jeff Hussey always emphasizes on. Nancy Sharifi talks about that as well a lot, how a lot of landlords are also suffering through this process, and they don't want to not only jeopardize their finances, they don't want to be the ones to put a family out in the streets at the end of the day, right? Because they also have to protect their own selves. So, as we help our residents with that education piece and advocating for them, is also we as local government and nonprofit sector, we have to help them bridge that gap, that housing gap that is present in our community.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I always say you don't know what you don't know. And so having this information out there, trying to get out to the public, they'll be more familiar with it and know how to advocate for themselves.
And
So
just, I
definitely
mean,
we have,
I
yeah.
just real quick, I just want to say that, we don't represent landlords. That's not within our grants. So I tend to only speak about the tenants, but the landlords, they're business people as well, and they have bills to pay, they have mortgages to pay, and they should be paid. If you're living in their house, their apartment. So I don't want to come across that they're bad people. They're not. They're suffering just like all of us together. But that's why I can't stress enough the communication aspect, and try and advocate for yourself. And they got to pay their bills, so they would rather have money come into their bank account than going out of their bank account to pay a lawyer, pay a process server to evict somebody. So that's what we keep our fingers crossed that there is going to be at least that type of solution, that people will be civil and we can work these things out.
Yeah.
That's correct. I just want to add that July and August are going to be very challenging times, and we are uh, all in this together. So we need to unite as a community and help each other. And we hope that the pandemic ends soon, but we still have some really rocky weeks ahead of us.
Yeah, we definitely do. So are there any last, well, we're almost at the end of our time. So are there any other resources you want to share before we close this? Any resource that you want to repeat, just that we keep it on the minds of people, and if they didn't get a chance to write it down, they could write it down now.
Yes, so Community Legal Services in Orange County, we are collaborating to bring the housing rights webinar to our community this upcoming Tuesday, June 30th at 2 p.m. We share the flyer with your office, Commissioner Bonilla, and I know Yvette stated that she's going to be sharing that document on social media so that our constituents are able to register. This is really important for all the residents to be able to log on and just learn about the eviction process, what their rights are, how to prevent it, what other programs are available in Orange County in relations to housing and health, and other good information that we're going to be providing. So please log on, and if you need to speak to an attorney, free of charge. Community Legal Services of Mid-Florida, they are here for you. They are amazing attorneys. I've had the pleasure of working with them for over a year, over 2 years now, working with the organization. They're very responsive and extremely knowledgeable, so please reach out to their hotline. I know Yvette shared the information on the chat. Jeff, can you go ahead and say the hotline number again and the website?
Absolutely. And I get the website wrong every time, so let me say it slowly. www.clsmf.org. That is our website. And our helpline number is where you can call to get the free immediate legal advice and your questions answered. That number is 800-405-1417.
Thank you.
I do have one question. I know that there's like some income requirements to get
Right.
help, but I believe with the CARES Act money, the $243 million that we got, we're using some of that money for those 8 extra staff members that you have, or extra
Right.
attorney.
For
So they won't fall under that requirement?
well, for the and we have not finalized that agreement for the general legal advice from Community Legal Services. There is an income level, and we're geared for lower income individuals who don't have the money or access to legal assistance. And our motto is we want to provide access to justice. But we have many different grants. So, the goal is to provide the legal assistance. And if we can't provide it under one grant, then we look to see how we can provide it under a different grant. So
Under the COVID funding that we just awarded community legal services, we can go up to moderate income, which is 80% of the median.
great. So yeah, so that, and you have to do as an intake, and you have to disclose what your income is and household makeup and whatnot. And it's always say it's good news, bad news. If you qualify for our services, it's great. You get free legal advice. The bad news is you qualify for our services, but which means you're at a lower income level. But we try and find ways that if maybe you're just a little bit over the threshold, to find ways that maybe there's some expenses that you're paying that you forgot to tell us about, or that you're a senior and we might have a grant that covers a senior in this area. So there are other ways that we can try and provide for instance, fair housing. There's no income limit. So if you're being discriminated in your housing, it doesn't matter how much money you make. You can be a millionaire and you can get free legal services for us for fair housing complaints.
Okay, good to know. Thank you. All right, so unless anyone has any questions for each other, I don't see any questions from the audience. Yvette, nothing yet?
No, nothing came in.
Okay, great. So we all did such a great job that no one had any questions.
Well, I
So
thank you for having us, Commissioner.
thank you for being on. Thank you for everything that you're doing and for sharing that information. We'll do our job in our office, try to get that information out there as much as possible as well. Doing this webinar or this virtual town hall is one way to be able to get that information out. So thank you to the attendees for attending as well. And please tell people about our Wind Down Wednesdays. You could learn from our social media when those are. your beverage of choice, so whatever it is. I actually have a Starbucks drink with me too. It's in my Mason's jar, but so
But
please, good.
thank you so much,
Thank,
Commissioner,
All right,
for
thank you,
taking
thank
Commissioner.
you.
to invite us
Have a good
on.
evening.
And we hope to
You're welcome.
repeat this and bring more information as things continue to change. As you know, everything is changing so drastically.
Yeah, so I may have you on again because this is going to be an ongoing issue, just to update everybody on what's going on. So expect maybe another invitation pretty soon. Hopefully not.
Just
It'd
let
be
us
great if
know.
things, get better faster. That's what we're all hoping for. But if not, we will be prepared. So rest
Thank
assured,
you.
everyone, that we are here working for you, making sure that we get the resources for you. And please reach out to us if you need anything. That's what we're here for. So thank you so much. That's the cue to get off, and I'll see you next time.
All right.
Bye.
Thank
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
you. Bye.